One.
Good evening to the Select Board meeting for May 18th, 2020. This is Select Board Chair Marie Angelides. I'll be confirming that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Richard Foster.
Yes.
Mark Gold.
Yes.
Thomas LaCuscia.
Yes.
Mark Strange.
Yes.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Lynn Simmons.
Yes.
Paul Pastor.
Here. Yes.
Debbie House.
Yes.
Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Chief Dearborn.
Here.
Okay, thank you. This open meeting of Long Meadow Select Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public body are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows for public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long as reasonable public access is afforded, so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless that participation is required by law. This meeting will actually have feature public comment. For this meeting, the Long Meadow Select Board is convened by telephone conference, video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Okay, thank you for coming together. And we are first looking for an update on COVID-19 from Chief Dearborn.
Good evening, Marie, and thank you to the board for allowing me to update you on the COVID-19 pandemic. Not including our elderly housing and nursing facilities, and according to the Mass DPH, as of today, we have 12 active cases in Long Meadow. This number is pretty much stabilized over the last 2 weeks, being the low teens. The situation at the nursing home appears to be stabilized, and we are seeing improvement there. The number of COVID-19 related EMS calls in the residential part of the Long Meadow continues to be slow. Over the last 2 weeks, we've averaged 15 COVID-19 related calls. We are starting some of the different phases in our emergency management. As of last week, we started demobilization phase. The fire department staffing and operations return to pre-COVID-19 models. The Emergency Operations Center, which has been operated 24 hours a day, but virtually since the beginning of this, was officially closed on Friday. We have reconstituted all of our personal protective equipment for both Board of Health and the fire department. We're currently working to increase our normal supply by 3 times on hand, and we're about halfway to that should we experience a resurgence in the COVID-19 pandemic. We also started a recovery phase. We are preparing our first FEMA claim under the declaration. That should go in by the end of this week. We anticipate scheduling a claim every 30 days moving forward. We received or applying for funds under the CARES Act. These funds offset both EMS expenses and some lost revenue in EMS. And also, I'm sure Paul discussed some town expenses and those not covered under the FEMA claim. We applied for the COVID-19 Assistance to Firefighters grant. This is specifically for PPE stockpiles, and we put in for $35,000 in basically to stockpile PPE going forward. We've also received or will be receiving several Mass DPH grants for various programs and supplies, and we've gotten some of those in already. I'm very optimistic the majority of our direct expenses will be covered through these various programs. However, none of this so far has addressed lost community revenue, which continues to be a concern. I'm sure the board feels that, shares that. Reconstitution and reopening. Last week, he assembled employee guidance for the new work practices. We're very happy to learn today that all the work we did on that aligned with the state. We just have 2 very minor details to put in place. We've completed most of the work in our offices and workspaces to prepare them with only a few modifications left to do. We're working on longer term plans for all of our facilities and schools to ensure that we're prepared for the opening in the new normal. This includes facility modifications, enhanced cleaning supplies, and personal protective equipment. We're actively discussing. We continue to work on plans for town meeting and town elections. The June election plan is significantly complete, with just a few details left. And again, some of those details, we're waiting for guidance from the state. We've launched a community mask distribution program. Information on how to acquire masks can be found at longmeadow.org. Ordering will be done through the Council on Aging, and the fire department will be coordinating distribution. There's a limited supplies, and we do plan on trying to reconstitute that as more funds and opportunities come available. Masks will be for residents 60 years of age or residents with medical conditions, which increase their vulnerability. Today, the state provided us with a framework for reopening. The task force is still looking at all the information, and we'll be meeting later this week to identify a task list to meet these benchmarks. Much of what was released today was not much of a surprise. I think we're in pretty good shape on most of the items. I think we're actually ahead of the game in many areas. As always, I want to thank the residents of Long Meadow for all their efforts to keep our community safe. And thank you to the board for their support, and I'll answer any specific questions.
Thank you very much, Chief. Any questions, Mark Gold?
None, thank you.
Richard Foster?
Thank you.
Tom Lakucha?
Chief, I have a question. In the governor's announcements today, he talked about this document. I don't know if people can read this, but people are supposed to attest that they're following certain procedures and then sign their names. And so when businesses open, they should have this on their door. And is that something that your group is going to be looking into to see if people are attesting that they are, set up for social
Yeah,
distancing?
so Tom, with the exception of that document, we've already have all our procedures. They were launched last week. They line up pretty much identical to what they released. So there's only two items we have: that attestation and a specific poster that they required. That's the only two minor details we have left to accomplish. So.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Mark Strange?
No questions.
Thank you. Chief, I have a question. So you said you have closed down the Emergency Management Center, but we're still under emergency management, aren't we?
Yep, we are. So it doesn't impact our declaration or funding. It's really just a reporting for me. What's required when the Emergency Operations Center is operating twice a day, I have to log in to the web EOC and update our statuses and things like that. And there's not a lot of daily change now. We're not ordering supplies every day. So it's really, and they were encouraging people that were open to actually close unless they're needed, because it caused work on the other end also. So.
Okay.
But it's no impact to cost recovery or anything else. And I still get a phone call every morning at 7:50 from my MEMA contract. So.
And when do you think we'll be out of emergency management?
I would say as long as the state has their declaration in the federal declaration, we will certainly have a role. One of the biggest things we're focused on right now is the cost recovery aspect of it. That's our major function, and that's obviously a very important aspect of this. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate all your work and coming and discussing this with us at each of our meetings.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Lynn, did you want to add anything else to that COVID-19 update?
No, I think the chief covered everything.
Oh, okay, thank you. Are there any announcements? Lynn, do you have any announcements?
I don't have any announcements. Most of them will be covered under my town manager report.
Okay. As select board, any announcements? No? Okay. All right, Lynn, we are waiting for two people to call in. I know that in the interviews, Peter Thompson has to do 7:15. So just let me know when he does call in.
I have Peter.
Peter is here. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Before we move on to resident comments and select board comments, I'm going to pull Peter in for the interview because I know he has a long schedule in the evenings. So thank you very much for coming and interviewing. Would you please tell us your name, your address, and what position you are looking to be appointed to?
I'm Peter Thompson. I live at 753 Frank Smith Road in Long Meadow, and I want to be on the Cultural Council again.
Thank you. And he has been on the council before. This is a reappointment, and he comes recommended by the chair. If you want to tell us why you want to volunteer again, we appreciate your many years of service.
Well, I've enjoyed since I retired about 12 years ago. I was brought in at that point, and I think we've made a lot of progress. We've been able to give a lot of grants to a lot of people in the arts each year, and we had a couple of good fundraisers, and it's been enjoyable. And I also think it's a very worthwhile thing. So if I can help, I'm glad to do it.
Oh, thank you very much. Mark Gold, do you have any questions?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Richard Foster, any questions or comments?
No, I don't. It's besides just thank Pete for signing back up or showing his face again.
Tom Lakusha?
Yeah, I wish we all had a nice microphone like that. We would all sound like radio announcers. No, we appreciate your help and look forward to being able to fit you on. Thank you.
I'm glad to do it.
Mark Strange?
Hey, Peter, nice to meet you. Thanks for stepping up.
Nice meeting you. I'm glad to do it.
Well, thank you very much for calling in. We're going to be voting at our next meeting, which will be June 1st. We appreciate you squeezing us in your evening hours.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
So we have only one more interview, and I believe that is Tim McKenna. So we'll wait and see when he pops in, which could be in a few minutes. So why don't we go on up? Are there any residents that have called in for comments?
There is a phone number listed here. It doesn't have a name attached to it, so I'm unsure who it is, but it's 413-454-8978.
Do you?
That's me. That's Richard on his cell phone.
Oh, okay. And I believe the other phone number call-in is Debbie, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So no resident comments. How about select board comments? Mark Gold?
None.
Okay, Richard Foster?
None.
Tom?
None.
Mark Strange?
None tonight. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, I just have two comments. One is Lena Ventura of our veterans agent has put together a wonderful, it'll be a virtual Memorial Day celebration. She had an LCTV recorded it. It will be playing on Memorial Day since we're not going to have Long Meadow Days this year. And it is the 150th anniversary. Long Meadow was started the Memorial Days long before most towns across the country. And it's a pretty special year. And I think Lena's put together a nice program. So please be sure to tune in on Memorial Day to see our 150th anniversary of the Memorial Day program. Also, I wanted to remind everyone, we've been trying to get there's a campaign out there to please apply for absentee ballots sooner rather than later. If you ask for an application on absentee ballot, you'll be able to mark, you can request absentees just for our elections on June 16th or for the whole year. There's a place to mark it. And with the COVID-19 crisis, you are eligible for absentee ballot because for health reasons, you might not want to vote, go in and vote when the polls are open. The polls will be open. There'll be special, I think Lynn is working very hard with Kathy and Chief Dearborn on safety measures. The polls will be open, but we are encouraging people to also apply for the absentee ballots. Did you want to add anything to that, Lynn?
No, I do speak about it in my report, so I'll wait until then.
Okay, sounds good.
Marie, I have one question.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is the link to that going to be on LCTV on the Veterans Show, or is it going to be on our website?
For the veterans, we should probably put it on our website also, I would think. That's a great idea, Richard. I know it's going to be on LCTV, but Lynn.
Okay, so it will be showing up on LCTV on their programming.
Yeah, and Lynn, why don't you look to see if we can put it on ours also? So it'll be more
Certainly.
available in more places. Okay, and we'll wait to see when Tim calls in. Why don't we go straight into your report then, Lynn?
Sure. So, as has been standard in the last few reports, COVID-19 coronavirus updates are going to continue to be available on the town website, longmeadow.org/coronavirus. The budget and CARES Act fund. So the estimated budget reduction of approximately $850,000, which includes daycare and ambulance revenue, was discussed, and a modified FY21 budget was approved by the Select Board May 4th. The school committee is aware of the budget reduction and has been asked to share in the burden of this reduction in the amount of $350,000. It is anticipated that the school committee will address the budget issue at their meeting during the first week of June, with the finance subcommittee meeting sometime prior to that date. The CARES Act funding information was made available to municipalities late last week. Both Paul Pasterzik and I took part in a webinar where they went over how the money could be applied for. Longmeadow's total eligible amount of funding is approximately $1.4 million. The money will be distributed upon an approved application over 2 grant rounds or reimbursement rounds. The first round for FY20 opened for applications on May 15th. The FY21 round will take place later this year. The recycling center is going to open for bulky and household items beginning Saturday, May 23rd. That includes wood, metal, TVs, tires, propane tanks, etc. There's a full listing available on the town website of what items are accepted. At this point in time, we're not able to accept mattresses as the vendor who disposes of them for us is currently closed. The swap shop will also remain closed right now. Payment for disposing of bulky household items will only be accepted at the recycling center via check. And attendants will be wearing masks and gloves, and residents will need to do the same. And you'll need a current sticker in order to access the facility, and those can be purchased online. New DPW facility and the new adult center, both projects are still ongoing. The weekly construction meetings are being held via Skype. We will have a better idea on the project completion for both sites once we see some COVID restrictions start to lift. We haven't hit any major issues related to the COVID pandemic and construction, but mostly smaller ones related to vendors having delayed responses or just waiting to hear back from contractors. We did have one issue with the salt shed at the new DPW. It's being put together by a vendor from New York, and they had been limited to traveling into the state. But they did get a waiver on that, and they have been on site and making pretty significant progress on that salt shed. Bliss and Laurel Park Master Landscape Plan. A community meeting was held with the Conway School as part of the Bliss and Laurel Park's master planning process. That was on May 7th. The meeting was streamed on LCTV and taped for anyone who missed it. There's a link to watch it on longmeadow.org/restore Bliss and Laurel. And a community meeting to view the preliminary design plans is scheduled for Thursday, June 4th at 7 p.m. That will also be a Zoom meeting, and we'll post that information really soon. And a survey about use of the parks remains open until May 22nd and is available on that website that I mentioned. LED streetlights, we have reached substantial completion on the installation of the Cobra heads. Arden worked through the punch list items and has demobilized until we are ready for phase 2. Rate change submissions have been sent to Eversource. The AOK kits for the decorative lights were received by Tanco in California and are being customized before being shipped to Longmeadow. Once we have confirmation that Tanco has shipped the decorative lights, we will schedule Arden to come back and begin that installation. Westcom, Munson will onboard with Westcom for June 1st, and East Longmeadow will onboard on July 1st. Hamden was entertaining joining Westcom, but has put that decision off for a year. An application for the next development grant was submitted in early May. The submission was done in a prioritized format, with the first priority being reimbursement for the town's FY21 assessments, Vision 21 upgrades, purchase and renovation of a facility, and radio phase 2 upgrades. The assessment of Greenwood and Salter College was done, and it determined that Greenwood would not be a suitable location, but Salter College could or would be. The Bay Path pilot agreement, we received a payment following the terms of the expired pilot agreement. President Leary's tenure at the school is coming to an end soon, and once the new president is at the helm, we will begin a conversation on a renewed pilot agreement. Culvert Replacement Municipal Assistance Grant. The DPW submitted an application through the Culvert Replacement Municipal Assistance Grant. The grant application was submitted for $130,000 to replace an existing failing corrugated metal pipe serving as a culvert equalizing water levels between wetland areas on the east and west side of Pondside Road. The application was submitted by the town's newly hired town engineer, Tim Key. The annual town meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, June 23rd, with a rain date of June 24th. As of right now, the meeting is planned to be held outside at Longmeadow High School. An annual town meeting logistics team has been meeting for several weeks to prepare and plan for town meeting. A copy of the warrant has been posted online and is available for viewing at www.longmeadow.org/town meeting. In order to help with planning efforts, we are asking residents to take a survey on whether they will be attending town meeting. The survey is available on the website. Warrant booklets are being printed and will be delivered to households in early June. And the town election is scheduled for Tuesday, June 16th. Deadline to register to vote in the June 16th election is Wednesday, May 27th. Registering to vote can be done online, by mail, or calling the town clerk's office and making an appointment. That has been revised slightly. We actually have forms now available in the lobby of the police station. You can fill them out right there and leave them in a drop box, and you will be registered to vote. Town officials were moving ahead with preparations to conduct the election with health and safety of residents and staff as the top priority. Registered voters are strongly encouraged to vote by mail by completing an absentee ballot application available on the town's website at longmeadow.org. Voting by absentee ballot due to COVID-19 coronavirus is encouraged by the Secretary of State's office as well. If you are unable to access the application online, please call the town clerk's office at 413-565-4103, and an application will be mailed to you. Each registered voter must fill out a separate application form. There is a section on the application that allows the voter to select to receive a ballot for each election this calendar year. If that selection is made, the voter would automatically receive a ballot by mail for the state primary election on September 1st and the general election on November 3rd. Due to the anticipated high response of absentee ballot requests, please send your application in as soon as possible to the town clerk so she has time to process it, and that you get your ballot in time. Polls will still be open on election day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and additional safety measures will be in place. Since I printed this report and made available in your packet, I had two minor additions. One relating to the town election. We are working on a townwide mailing that would accompany the recycling calendar, the trash and recycling calendar, to go out hopefully end of this week, early next week. And there would be information on the town election and a copy of an absentee ballot application. And that would go to every household. And one other non-election related update was a request from the Longmeadow High School principal to place graduation signs of each graduating senior on the green. They would go up on Wednesday and be taken down on Friday. There'll be approximately 250 of these signs, each with a photo of the graduating senior. And then the seniors would then pick up the sign Friday and then display them in their front yard. Just a heads up, that will be happening beginning Wednesday. And that is what I had for an update.
Oh, thank you. It was a nice idea. Mark Gold, do you have any questions or comments for Lynn?
Yeah, thanks. I had a couple. When I noticed that the DPW's monthly report didn't have recycling volumes for the second month in a row, and since we put in the trash collection to try to be justified by increased recycling, is there any chance we can go back and get those numbers? And I assume that that's something we can look into getting, just since it's a running total, if we can get that filled in for the next time around. The other question I had was really about the DPW. Are they back now on a full-time, everybody working schedule now that the weather's gotten better?
Yes, we worked quite diligently, led by Chief Dearborn and multiple other town officials to prepare draft employee guidelines in order to be able to bring employees safely back to the settings of where they do their work. And we completed that Friday. We made the final touches on that, and DPW went back to 100% staffing beginning today. So they were the first recipients of our guidelines. And I think as Chief Dearborn mentioned, we were happy that we were in line with very much what the reopening advisory board and what the governor directed today. Everything, all the work that we had done in the 2 weeks leading up to this had been affirmed by what the work of the advisory board had done. So yes, the long answer is yes, DPW is back to full staffing as of today.
Thank you.
Richard Foster, any questions or comments?
Comments, a good report, Len. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, first I was wondering, is there a proposed date to open town hall?
No.
Okay.
The short answer is no.
Okay.
As you know, and as all of you who have been in town hall know, it's very small. The space is very confined. I don't see town hall being open to the public for people to come and go anytime soon. But we are reviewing how we may be able to modify the services that we offer. And we're also watching what other communities are doing as well. A lot are going to appointment only,
Okay.
and scheduling and managing the numbers of people in the building that way. But all of it's under consideration at this point. But for the immediate future, there are no plans to reopen to the public.
Okay, having appointment only sounds like a really good idea. I've seen some folks who've come and they had to leave and come back and slip stuff in the mail slot. And I hope people aren't complaining about that. So that's good. The other thing is, the mailing about the voting, to have people not vote in person, but to send a ballot, to add that to the mailing is a great idea. I know we've talked about it, and I think that's a better solution than we discussed. Now the culvert that's going to be built down, connecting the ponds down in the meadows or the ponds area, to equalize the water balance. Now, in 2016, that property was all turned over to Silvio Conti National Wildlife, Protection, Fish and Wildlife Protection. So why isn't that a federal project to have them put that culvert in to equalize the water? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, that roadway is actually town roadway. So the infrastructure underneath it would be the town as well. We were able to receive it's called a FLAP grant, Federal Land Access Program grant, that we are working to couple with this culvert replacement if we get this. The project itself is over $500,000. So we're looking for every possible pot of money that we can dip into to make this happen.
Okay, but we can't get the feds to pay for the whole thing, huh?
No.
Surprise. All right, I guess. The other thing is, on the Westcom thing, it's interesting that they're going to use Salter College. I don't know if people remember, but that's the place that was originally built pretty new. I don't know, maybe it's 10 years old. It was going to be a strip club. And
No.
isn't that the place right on?
It is, Tom, but it was the Monsanto North American headquarters when I worked there years ago. That building's been there. It was our marketing building from Monsanto. So yeah, when Monsanto sold it, you're right. It became a strip club, then it became Salter College. But I've been in that building hundreds and hundreds of times back when it was Monsanto.
That's how
Sure, that's handy. Yeah, Monsanto, not the strip club. No, they never opened. But they have roads connecting either way there, so that probably is a good location. But the other thing is I guess that's about it. In the manager, in the report, um, Chief Fontaine, it was different. It was a different police report, and it made it look like the police have been very busy in town. But it was a good report, and it was nice to have him uh, doing that now. So, thank you.
Mark Strange?
No questions for Lynn. Thanks for the update.
A great report, Lynn. My only comment was, I know you said that group is meeting, I think they're meeting again on Wednesday in regards to town meeting.
Yes.
I think we should be considering informational sessions on the warrant before then. I'm not sure if Rebecca has done those in the past. Maybe the select board wants to get involved with that too, but I think that since we're hoping to have a streamlined town meeting, I think we have to get as much information out to people as possible. I did receive a phone call from a resident to try to understand the tax ceiling issue. And I think if we put that in, and I know, Mark, you're going to be interested in that part too, Mark Gold, but I think we need to have a couple of informational sessions in June before we hit that 23rd date. Maybe we could have one and then repeat it on LCTV, but I think if you could bring that to the group and see what ideas are coming from that. And anyone on the select board who has ideas on how to put together that type of meeting. Or I think the Zoom for the Bliss Park was amazing. You said you had like 69 people attending, and that would be phenomenal if we could do something like that, so people could ask questions. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and I mentioned it to you, Lynn, is, and the select board, we should consider a meeting for June 17th. And I just want to let you know I'm going to be setting one up while I'm still chair, because I think you need to have a new chair in place as soon as possible after the election. So that's why I was going to have a quick meeting set up. And so you'll see that pop up in your calendars. So I thought this was a good time as any to let everyone know I was going to move ahead on that. All right, any other questions or comments on Lynn's town meeting report?
I have one question. Lynn, I noticed it was kind of new news seeing that Munson and East Long Meadow were joining Westcom. Is that an initiative that you've been working on since you got here?
Yes and no. I think as soon as as soon as Westcom went live in December, several of you were there at that launch. I remember East Long Meadow being there. I'm not certain if Munson was there, but there was a lot of interest watching from the sidelines as we launched. And then seeing as how it transpired over the next few weeks, they were very interested in learning more. So since probably January, they've started this conversation. They had change of leadership in East Long Meadow as well. So the town manager there is very interested in joining. And Munson, same thing. They were very interested in joining as well. And both those communities acted pretty quickly after seeing, the sky didn't fall when we went live with Westcom. And we actually saw some improved service, certainly, because Munson was similar to Long Meadow, where they only had one dispatcher on, and it limited response and call handling. So it's certainly not something I can definitely take credit for at all, but both communities, I think, see that this is the direction to go, and we're really hopeful that development grant will reimburse the FY21 town assessment, because that will be some much needed budget relief for us next year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. Wait a minute, Marie. That's great, Lynn. I just want to know, and it's very interesting that the show and tell worked. The dog and pony show worked, and it brought possibly three more people forward, because East Long Meadow had originally turned down the participation. So even though you may not have been the originator, I'm sure you've been feeding a pony to take this show down the road. So I appreciate it.
Tom?
Yeah, I didn't realize that that open house was so effective. And given the fact that it reduces our costs, the more towns that are involved, maybe we should once a year, reach out to communities that could join. Because I know at one point Agawam was really interested in joining with us too. So I don't know, you may want to put that, in your a tickler file somewhere to say, in, maybe before towns would look at their budgets, that we'd have an open house and let them think about the possibility of joining Westcom, because that sounds like it was effective.
Yes, and so actually, in direct response to that, we had a kind of a meet and greet info session scheduled for March 18th, I think it was, with State 911. They were coming out to Western Mass
Oh.
to do an info session for all area communities that may have some interest in joining, because the development grant was being launched, and they thought it would be a great opportunity for communities where we are to learn more about it and possibly join Westcom. And unfortunately, that was canceled due to COVID. So we've held off right now. The other piece of this is with Munson and East Long Meadow joining, that will reach capacity for Westcom in their current location. And in order to add more communities, they will need a larger facility to add more dispatchers. They just physically don't have any more space to put more people in if we take on more communities. There was another piece of this that I wanted to speak to too, that I think was really incentivizing for some communities to jump on here, and it's a radio system. And I see that Chief Dearborn's still on this call, and if you would allow it, I would ask that he maybe give you a brief update on that radio system work.
Chief?
Thanks. So we're about 50% complete on installation of the new radio system. We're adding 2 more transmit receive sites. This week we issued all new portable radios, and I believe next week or the week after we'll be installing all new mobile radios. We expect by mid-June to be up and running with that. So that's about a $3 million value for capital to Long Meadow, and it's all paid on the state's dime. So our system was end of life, and so that was, back when we talked about capital savings, this is the first big one we're going to see. So
Great.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I wanted to also, it reminded me that the regional dispatch was discussed at the regional select board meeting out in Wilbraham, and I think there was a lot of discussion then, which reminded me we have to set up one in June, don't we? We're hosting that. And so if anyone has any ideas of what you want the topic to be on the agenda, I guess we have to start working on that the next week or so and get that moving. That will be before the 16th. I believe it's the first week in June. So it's really coming up.
Yep, I have it calendared. I can reach out to all of you in advance to make sure I get all your items for the agenda, because I would like to make sure we publish it in as much notice as possible, not this very short-term notice that we've been receiving from the other communities.
Yeah. Let me
try to be better than that.
And let me know what refreshments you think we should serve. Any ideas are appreciated. Okay, so let's move on to old business, approval of minutes. And I'm looking for a motion to approve May 4th regular meeting minutes.
I'll move we approve the May 4th regular meeting minutes for the select board.
That was Mark Gold. Is there a second?
Richard Foster, second.
Okay, discussion? All right, I'll roll call vote, Debbie.
Marie,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm now looking for a motion to approve the special meeting on May 11th.
Ms. Mark Gold, I'll move that we approve the select board minutes for the May 11th special interview meetings.
Richard Foster, second.
Debbie, roll call vote.
Marie,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
I think I have to abstain from that one. I wasn't there.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Tom,
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to give us a little bit of an update on the discussions we've had and where we are on the Tennessee gas pipeline, Lynn?
Sure. So let's see, we sent a letter back, losing track of time, but it wasn't too long ago, to Tennessee Gas asking that they reach out and we begin communication again. That has not been responded to as of yet. Last week, there was just a conversation between Mark Strange, Marie, and myself, just about Tennessee Gas and where we stood with things, and just the direction that we want to go. There's also, I think it's Food and Water Watch has filed suit, and someone jump in and correct me if I'm getting this wrong, filed suit regarding the FERC process, and there's been some requests to have the AG's office write a amicus brief in support of that. I have not had an update on it since then. Just looking through my notes here. Yeah, it was clear that it seems as though there's not very much communication right now between Columbia Gas and Tennessee Gas. So we're not sure who's going to do something first. But it's something that we're monitoring right now. But it did seem like they hadn't been communicating that closely, at least as of recent.
What have you heard from Columbia, which is now Eversource? Where do we stand in communications with them?
Same kind of thing. The COVID situation has both Eversource and Columbia Gas. They're really limiting to essential services right now. They don't have their workers out doing stuff that can be held off until the situation improves. I'm told that we expect sometime by the end of the summer the Eversource deal to go through. It hasn't gone through yet, so it is still kind of out there in limbo, but they are still proceeding with their emergency work. They're getting their permits that they need to get in order to do that work. They're still under that moratorium. But there's been no further progress on the laterals. So we don't have any plans filed yet, nothing within the planning board or zoning board right now.
Yeah, and I understood that Eversource / Columbia was moving to the third quarter before they went in front of the siting board. So that is not happening imminently.
Right.
Any questions or comments, Mark? Gold?
No, thank you.
Richard Foster?
No, thank you.
Tom Lakusha?
No, thank you.
Mark Strange?
I think Lynn hit the high points, so I think we're good.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to new business. Vote on the sale of the bonds. Paul, do you want to give us background?
Sure. Back on May 6th, we got our ratings from Standard & Poor's. We maintained our AA+ rating. We went out to bid, roughly originally was $18.7 million worth of par value on on some authorizations. The biggest part of that was the refinancing of the second loan, about $13 million second loan at Long Meadow High School. And there was a smaller water loan that was also refinanced, along with some other newer authorizations that included the additional money for the DPW, Wolf Swamp Fields, landfill phase 2, the Interceptor sewer, and a drainage project. We actually did very well out in the market. The refinancing alone, with the refinancing, saved over $2.2 million worth of debt service over the 13 years that remained over those life of those bonds. We had 5 bids that came in, and our true interest rate for all the bonds that were issued came down to 1.69%. Again, probably couldn't have timed this much better.
Yeah.
There were some bond premiums. Some of the authorizations did already have provisions that those bond premiums will automatically go towards the projects with the recension of the amount that are unissued. We will probably need to go on a few of the issues, town meeting in the fall, to authorize those premiums to go towards those projects, as they were not written into the original authorizations. The board will need to sign documents. I think there are minimally three signatures required on those. Again, it's about $172,000 a year worth of savings over the 13 years. It's about 7.6 cents itself on the tax rate, which in essence pays for the Wolf Swamp. One could look at it, it pays for the whole debt service on the Wolf Swamp fields, plus saves another $50,000. So we did very well in that regard.
They found out what to turn it on.
I'm sorry? Okay. I also want to mention that we also did, we had to issue bans. It's kind of got lost in the shuffle. The board does not have to vote on the bans, but we had 9 bids on bans. The original amount that we had outstanding was $573,000. We were retiring $227,000. And we were taking out bans for $352,000. Those again will also need signatures. There were 9 bids. The low bid was TD Bank at 1.29% on those. And they were taken out for a year. It was the last payment for the fire engine that we had purchased a couple of years ago. There were new authorizations for Kingsbury water and Farm Lea water. We were reducing amounts that we had borrowed on Sunset Lane and Branch Street, and also reducing some of the amounts that we had outstanding in the sewer on Hazardville Road and the Elmwood siphon, along with a reduction on the stormwater for the Morningside Culvert. So I don't know if I can answer any other questions for you.
Okay, thank you. Mark Gold, any questions or comments?
I just congratulate Paul on doing a good job on timing. Again, sometimes it's just as better to be lucky than good, but whatever you were, you hit this one on the head. Do we have to vote to authorize this bond, or is that was part of a prior vote and we're just signing it?
I was just thinking that, Deb, I don't know if you have, is there a vote that was included in any of the paperwork that you have, Deb, or had? You have it with you?
For this meeting? Oh, you
For
mean the paperwork to be signed?
For the bond, well, yeah.
I don't have it, it's in the office.
Yeah, see, I actually didn't get anything. The treasurer handed it over to Deb. I'm gonna have to double check, Mark. I beginning to have my concerns myself, in all honesty, that there is usually a vote, a long-winded type of vote
Right.
that's usually taken out. I did not receive that paperwork.
Right, because the wording is usually very, very particular, precise. I don't know, and if there is, I'd suggest, Marie, we have a special meeting just to get that through so we can get this paperwork signed and issued.
Well, Paul, do you think you could chase something down right now, or while we're continuing the meeting?
It is very technical and precise. I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Okay.
It's something that bond counsel writes up, and we would have to get the exact wording.
All right, so while we're on this, do you want to do it? Like, we need 48 hours to post, and so the earliest we could do it is Thursday.
Well, why don't you let me find out tomorrow morning exactly what's needed? If you want to schedule something temporarily, that's fine.
Yeah,
I just want to.
Here, I want to get, a consensus.
Yep.
Let's see. Noon's better for you, Mark Strange, right? Okay, so if we looked at, and again, we won't be posting unless Paul says we need it, but how about Thursday at noon? Is that good for you, Mark Strange?
So,
Tom, Thursday at noon?
I won't be free until 1 o'clock.
Okay, is 1 o'clock good for you, Mark Strange?
yep.
Okay, Mark Gold, 1 o'clock on Thursday.
No, not until 1:30 or so. I could do it not at 1 o'clock or 1:30.
Oh, you could do noon?
Yeah.
Okay. Richard Foster, what looks best for you on Thursday?
I can do any of those times.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Marie, can we just suggest 2 or 3 o'clock? I mean, the afternoon's okay. I don't know, Tom, what time in the afternoon, or Mark, what time in the afternoon's best?
Yeah, 3 o'clock would be good.
Mark Strange?
I'm not sure if I can make it work, but if you have a quorum, that's.
Marie, we just need a quorum. We can get a quorum at noon, I think.
All right, so why don't we look at noon or 3? We'll let you know what we end up settling on, but it'll be Thursday if Paul says we need it. All right. And any questions in regards to this? Richard, in regards to the bond, sale of bonds?
No. It's just it's fantastic we're able to get rates like that. It's just a once in a lifetime, Paul, right?
Yeah, this one, they threw a softball to me.
Yeah. Well, every once in a while, it's nice to get a softball. You've handled enough hardballs.
Mark Strange?
No, nothing. Good job, Paul.
Thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, with those rates, 1.2, 1.6, Paul, you must have felt like Charlie Bucket in Willy Wonka's, chocolate factory, just going nuts.
Yeah, I got the gold wrapper.
Well, great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll wait to hear from you, Paul, and then we'll inform the board where we're going with it.
Okay, I'll check it tomorrow morning, first thing.
And Tim hasn't called in, has he? No, okay. Let's keep going then on town manager evaluation discussion. It's about this time of year, and I know Lynn just has come on, but I think it's important for us to keep up the process and the procedure. So we have the old form that we were just going to use. I was going to send it out to everybody and ask that they get them back to me in about a week. If you feel you can't, that you have no information on certain areas because she's been here for such a short period of time, though a lot has happened in that time, Lynn. You probably feel like you've been here for years. Just skip that over and fill out as best as you can. And then on the June 1st meeting is when we would review the evaluation and discuss the contract and things. Mark Gold.
Yeah, are we sending it to you, Maria, or to Debbie? In the past, we'd sent it to Debbie and she just consolidated them onto one document.
It's always been the chair. The chair consolidates them, cuts and pastes onto one document.
I don't think so, but that's okay. We can do that.
Debbie, have you been doing them in the past?
I have done it in the past.
Oh, you have? Because I just remember having to do it, and it was a real pain.
Yeah, right. We switched 2 yeyears ago to have Debbie do it.
Oh, okay. Debbie, do you mind doing it?
No, that's no problem.
It's no problem? Okay. Mark Strange, any questions or comments about the process?
Nope.
No? Tom?
No, I do remember having to write out that stuff all when I did it a couple of years a while ago. But no, I can get that done.
Okay. And Richard Foster?
No, don't have any problems.
Okay. Yeah. So June 1st is going to be a very, very busy meeting. We've got water rates. We've got this that we're trying to do. And I think there's other things that are on the agenda. So just expect a much longer meeting on June 1st because I feel it's important to keep up this process. If there's anything else that's supposed to be done at the end of the year, let me know. Because we're trying to go over old agendas and make sure we don't forget the regular processing of town business in the middle of this crisis. Let's see. Then the next thing is the appointment of Registrar of Voters. Let me just give a rough overview on what's happened and the history of it. I think that we have 3 that we appoint. And there people were saying, well, we really want 4, an even number from each party. So we were recommended by town council that we go to another form instead of Register of Voters. It's a board of electors, I believe. Once we did that through home rule, our new attorney informed us there's a lot more work involved with that. And The registrar, Board of Registrars was not happy with this new process. So we asked for another home rule to repeal that, but due to the COVID-19 crisis, it has not been able to be passed. And we are told we can remain under the current, we can extend our current Board of Registrars until that is decided by the state. So we just have one of the Registrar of Voters, which is Sandy Metz's term has expired the end of March, and we're looking for a appointment to fill that appointment. She has requested to be reappointed, and that's where we are with the appointment of Registrar of Voters, which we feel it is important to have a full board. Unlikely that we will end up with having to hand count because of a recount and when it comes to the current election coming up, but we feel it's only appropriate we have a complete Registrar of Voters. Lynn, do you want to add to that little review?
No, that was accurate, sorry. No, I kind of went in great detail, I think, at your early April meeting, your first April meeting, just about my conversation with Attorney Tassinari at the Elections Division about the process moving forward. So I think we're on firm ground.
Yeah. And as I said, I did pick up the phone and I spoke to Sandy Metz, who said she is interested in reappointment.
I'll make a motion then that we appoint Sandra Metz to fill the upcoming vacancy on the board of the Board of Registrars.
That was Mark Gold.
For a 3-year term.
Is there a second?
Second, Richard Foster.
Okay. Discussion. Tom.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this before, and we would like to have a balance between the two different parties, but I think our final position on it was that if someone reached a point where they no longer wanted to continue, that's when we would really look at, changing the balance and making it more, just switching around. So I have no difficulty with continuing with Senator Metz.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment? Okay, we're looking for a roll call vote. Debbie?
Marie,
Yes?
Richard,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Was there anything else we had to do with this topic, Lynn?
No.
Okay. And so now we are, you'll just keep us informed on what's happening with our home rule vote. And if there's any other way that we can balance it out. I know this has been a long standing problem of a couple of years, so you can handle it for us now, Lynn. All right, now let's go on to the fall town meeting discussion. I requested that this be on the agenda because I am concerned about us having possible problems in October, November, when we usually have a town meeting. Also, we have pulled a lot of things off this warrant, and I have actually picked up the phone and spoken to both citizens petitioners who are considering no action, but they want to know, well, what happens if they do say no action or table it at this time? Well, they have to get more signatures to get it on a fall town meeting. So I guess there's two issues here in regards to a fall town meeting. One is I was thinking we should have one in September. And so we can at least clean up some of these things that we have pulled off the agenda, the warrant article. And then the other is, as a board, if the citizens petitioners say that they will remove from the June election warrant, will we vote and be committed to allow it to go on to the next town warrant? Because we have the power to put things on the warrant or not put things on the warrant. So those are the two issues to discuss tonight in regards to fall town meeting. And Paul, before we start, you had some comments in regards to a September town meeting.
Yes, I mean, regardless if you have a September town meeting, there's going to be a number of things that are not completed financially. Depending on the timing of it, if it's early September, we will not have our free cash certified potentially. If it's too early in September, we definitely will not have our new growth certified at that point in time. There's little things like that that I would still recommend, even if you do have a September town meeting, that you do also then have one in the latter part of October or up through mid-November to take care of the financials.
Okay, Lynn, did you want to add anything to the discussion about whether we do a September meeting or not?
It's hard to say right now. I think we're planning for June's to be outdoors. And it's hard to say whether we'll need to continue that type of planning for September or November. At this point, I may lean towards just one, putting one together, especially if we're breaking out into multiple rooms. Just the logistics that go with that and potential cost that go with it. If we have one meeting, might be easier than having two. So I'm at this point, I guess I would say I would lean towards one instead of two.
Mark Gold?
I agree. I think if we have to do something different, like hold it in the parking lot, holding two is really, really difficult. Even if the weather is good for September, it's not going to be good for October. And the September stuff we want to do, the October stuff we need to do, we must do. And so I support having just one later, and we'll figure, cross that bridge when we get to it, as they say. We'll figure that out.
Richard?
Yeah, I tend to agree with everything that's been said, Marie. With the unknown nature of what's in front of us, I think planning for one is going to be far superior than trying to plan for two.
Okay, Mark Strange?
Yeah, I agree with that with everybody. I think one, planning for one and having one probably later on is the best way to go.
Yeah, I think when we discussed making the changes to the warrant for this town meeting, people seemed pretty understanding that it would not happen until, the October meeting. So I don't think we should be under a lot of pressure, but I mean, I wouldn't mind entertaining it again in a future meeting if something changed, so.
Lynn, what would be the last time you'd be able to make a decision on whether you're holding a September one or not?
I guess it would depend on the warrant and the timeline to get it to the printer. And if you hold a special meeting, are you mailing warrant booklets to every house?
No, it's not required.
No.
The only requirement is the warrant needs to be posted 14 days prior to the meeting. But we normally just post it online, have them available at public spots, the library historically, and we could get them in Big Y, we could distribute them to some degree and have them available in that regard. But they would be posted online. Again, 14 days is the requirement.
Okay. All right,
Marie, I have one more point. Thinking I agree along the line of what you're saying, that this thing's going to get bigger and bigger, but later on, say into end of September, October, even November, we may be in a position to where we're going to know a lot more about how to do this meeting, and we may be able to have a 2-day meeting at that time also.
Okay. Well, this will be up to the board in the future. I think we just have to be very careful. We don't have long meetings, and a lot of these bylaws and citizens petition could really have a lot of debate going. And it would be hard to do outside once you're talking to by the end of September, it's going to get iffy. And when you go further into October and November. So keep that in mind. The other question in regards to the fall town meeting is there going to be a commitment on this board to allow the citizens petitions to go to the next meeting without having to collect the 50 signatures that are now required to go into a fall town meeting? Mark?
What Tom said, Tom had it. We already essentially said we would do that, and I think we have to honor that commitment. They got the signatures, and it was our request that they defer it. So I can't imagine us not allowing those to go forward.
Richard?
No, I agree. We'd let them go forward.
Okay. And Tom?
Yeah, no additional required signatures, I think. Yeah.
Mark Strange?
Yeah, I agree with everyone.
Okay. All right, so.
One quick thing, Marie.
Yes.
Is there anything, Lynn and John, I don't think John's here anymore, but Lynn, under the guidance that's coming out from the governor, are you getting any inkling of how towns are going to be handling the situations that we're caught in?
In terms of town meeting, is that what you're asking?
Correct.
Yeah, there was draft guidance that they've been circulating. It's still considered draft. The last document date was, I think, May 12th or May 15th. I was on a DPH call this morning, and they said that they would have additional town meeting guidance by the end of tomorrow. So I'm hoping there's something, but so far the draft that I've seen is exactly what we've been planning for.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Marie.
Thank you. Any other questions in regards to town meeting in general for Lynn? No? Okay. Now there's a vote we need to do on the town election warrant.
Yeah, I'll move that we approve the election warrant as distributed by the town clerk, calling for an election on June 16th, 2020 at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Richard Foster, second.
Okay, discussion? Okay, we never got any other legislation, but I think things seem to be turning the page. So it's good that we're going to go ahead with our town election for the date we have. There's less confusion. We have a roll call vote, Debbie?
Marie,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Okay, now Debbie, you needed the election warrant signed. Well, we don't know about the sale of the bonds. There was a third thing you needed signed, wasn't there?
Yeah, we have a few documents that have been piling up in with Paul's bonds and bans that there's quite a few signatures
Well, can
that
we,
we'll need.
after we find out if we need to have the special election, or do you need this election warrant signed tomorrow?
I don't believe Kathy needs it signed tomorrow.
Mhm.
Maybe by later in the week.
Okay, so if we end up having our Thursday meeting, then we'll send the word out and see if we can we need 3 people to come in and sign, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Yes,
so
that'd be fine.
I'll chase everybody down after we've decided what we're doing with the Thursday meeting and see who will be able to come in
Okay.
and sign. And as she described, we have to use our keys to go in and lock the building afterwards, and she'll have the papers laying out for us. All right.
Right.
Anything else you want to discuss tonight before we go into executive session? Mark Gold,
No, I'm all set.
Richard Foster,
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Tom Lakusha,
All set.
Mark Strange.
Nothing.
Okay, great. Well, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn to executive session, not to reopen. And there's a,
So moved.
it has to be, do we have to have this read, right, Lynn?
Yeah.
I'll read it. I move that we enter to executive session in accordance with MGL Chapter 38, Section 20A, subsection 1, 2, 3, to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of complaints or charges against a public officer, employee, or staff member or individual, citizen recognition awards, and to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel and or to discuss collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, to wit the and also to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation that the chair has hereby declares an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position in the public body for the Tennessee Gas Pipeline expansion and Columbia Gas related matters. and not to reconvene into open session.
Mark, you missed something right in the middle. Could you repeat that?
Is that a second, Richard?
Yeah, it's a second.
Okay, thank you. Roll call vote?
Marie,
Yes.
Richard,
Yes.
Mark Strange,
Yes.
Mark Gold,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for joining us. We'll be back June 1st for a very long meeting, and we'll now move to executive session. Good night.